Sigmund Freud has become synonymous with the unconscious mind, so much so that many people assume he discovered it. But the territory Freud mapped had been explored by others before him, and among the most serious of those explorers was William James. James was fascinated by what he called the hidden self, the regions of mental life that lie beyond the focus of conscious attention, that influence behavior and experience without being directly accessible to awareness. He came to this interest through the phenomena that interested him throughout his career: religious experience, hypnosis, automatic writing, cases of multiple personality, the strange recoveries and transformations that sometimes followed psychological crises. In each of these cases, James saw evidence of mental activity that was real, that had genuine effects on behavior, on experience, on the person's capacities and vulnerabilities, but that was not directly accessible to normal waking consciousness. A person under hypnosis could remember things the waking person could not. A person practicing automatic writing could produce material that seemed to come from somewhere other than deliberate thought. A person who underwent religious conversion sometimes displayed capacities and energies they had not previously had access to. James used various terms for this phenomenon: the transmarginal field, the subliminal, the hidden self, and he was consistently agnostic about its ultimate nature. He did not think it was necessarily a separate system of the kind Freud would later describe. He thought it was real as any other psychological phenomenon, and that its study was among the most important work psychology could do. His own psychology was built around the concept of the stream of consciousness, but he was well aware that the stream has edges, what he called its fringe, and that the fringe shades off into regions that are not conscious in the ordinary sense. The ordinary self is, in James's image, like the area of bright focus in the center of the visual field. But vision also has a periphery, and the periphery, though not focused, contains real information. The transmarginal field is the periphery of mental life, and it is just as real as the center. Where James differed most sharply from Freud was on the content and the mechanisms of the hidden self. Freud's unconscious was primarily a repository of repressed desires, forbidden wishes, buried traumas, primitive impulses kept out of consciousness by the censoring work of the ego. The unconscious was essentially adversarial. It worked against the conscious self, seeking to return what had been repressed, disguising its contents in dreams and symptoms and slips of the tongue. James had no systematic theory of repression and no commitment to the view that the unconscious was primarily sexual or primarily adversarial. His hidden self was more neutral and more plural. It was the home of skills not yet fully conscious, of creative processes that worked below awareness, of memories and capacities that had never been activated rather than ones that had been actively suppressed. It could be dangerous, as multiple personality cases suggested, but it could also be a resource, a reservoir of potential that ordinary consciousness did not tap. This more positive view of the unconscious, as a resource as well as a danger, connects James to what later psychologists would call positive psychology and to the modern research on unconscious cognition that shows how much of our intelligent behavior is produced by processes we are not aware of. We make better decisions when we allow the unconscious time to work. We access creative solutions through what James called mental work done below the threshold. The hidden self is not just the shadow of the conscious self, it is part of its foundation. Subscribe to the Psychology of William James for more of his timeless ideas.